Hi everyone, good morning. Today we are talking about the importance of physical activity, in particular strength training or resistance training. I hope you liked my previous video, which was on how to sleep the right way. So today we'll be talking about what is the importance of physical activity or strength training, like I alluded to in my previous video. So if you would like to watch that, I'll link it below in the description and you can check that out. About today's topic, from the last 1 to 1.5 months, I am starting to go to the gym, doing it regularly, almost 5 to 6 times every week. Gym workout sessions of 1 hour each day. Now let us first understand what are the mechanics of building muscle and what is the importance of muscle mass. Is it actually important, or is it just to look good aesthetically, or does it actually have some impact in our lives? So the first point is muscle tissue. How does it work? Basically there are two types of muscle tissues, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 muscle tissues are usually used for endurance, and type 2 muscles are used for other fast twitch muscles and voluntary movement. They control the voluntary movements of our bodies, like our arms, legs and all, and these contribute the most to our explosive strength. If you want to lift something quickly or run on all of that, so they contribute to that. And muscle 2 tissues, the important thing is they can be worked on by us, by our physical activity day to day. If we use our muscles deliberately to create movement, break through resistance, then there are micro tears in your muscle fibers, in your type 2 muscle fibers, and then what the body does is it again tries to mend those muscle tissues back, those micro tears back, in a way building on more muscle mass in place of that. So if there was a muscle tissue there which you tore, but they are very small micro tears, some of your cells get damaged, your body thinks that yes, this muscle is required to be stronger so as to avoid muscle tears in the future. What it does is it makes that muscle stronger. Now how do you build that muscle? You build that muscle only through strength or resistance training. Resistance training means metaphorically you are breaking through some resistance. In this particular case, you are lifting weights. So the weight acts as a resistance for your muscle to go forward. So your bicep muscles contract, pulling your elbow and your this bone to your shoulder, and then bringing it down again, slowly expanding. This is called resistance training. Your bicep is going through the resistance of lifting the weight and then bringing it down again. So this is called resistance training, and this is the only way in which you can build muscle. Now why do you actually want to build muscle? Muscles act as glucose sinks, big glucose storehouses that is there in your blood, which it can store away for use later, at a later point of time. I will talk about this concept a bit later in the video, but just think that how high your muscle mass is directly correlates to you having lesser and lesser glucose spikes in your blood. The number of glucose spikes that you have in your blood directly relates to your increasing risk of having type 2 diabetes. But I will touch upon this a bit later. talking about diabetes is a completely separate topic on its own, and you could entail a new independent video on that. But for now, just think this: building muscle mass is not just for looking good, it is actually to stay healthy both physically and mentally. Let's speak about point number 1, which is the loss of muscle mass as you age. You are in the best shape of your life in your 20s and 20s, and in 30s your the shape of your body remains fairly constant. You do not lose much, you don't gain also much. After that, every decade as it goes by, for a lack of a better word, your muscle mass decays. So every 10 years there is a rate of degrowth that happens to your muscle mass in your body. If you are able to understand, if you understand the growth rate of some investment that you did somewhere, usually humans are good at understanding linear growth rates, but they struggle to understand or properly digest a compound growth rate. Take the same principle and think of it in reverse for muscles, and as you age, the growth rate is in inverse and your muscle mass keeps reducing year on year. After your 40s, by the end of your late 40s and early 50s, your muscle mass has definitely reduced, and also the speed at which you can put on muscle by exercising or strength training reduces. In your 50s, it's even more difficult. In your 60s, your the strength, the fast twitch muscles, how fast you can do your physical activities or your explosive strengths, they reduce by a mile. In your 70s, if you can if you can think about strength and time, years, so to speak, your strength reduces like this, like this, like this, and after you hit your 60s, it reduces like this. The curve of the strength is very steep, and after you hit your 70s, by 75, it drops off a cliff, comes completely down. Do you have grandparents, great grandparents? Have you spent some time with them, or even someone in your relatives or in your friends who has grandparents or relatives who are very old, as in after their 70s or 80s? Did you see how frail they looked? They did not look nearly the same when they were in their 20s and 30s. It is a natural consequence of aging, reducing your muscle mass. Hence, and I'm not saying it's impossible to put on muscle mass when you are old, in your 60s, 70s. It is possible, but it is impossibly difficult. If you can understand what I'm trying to say, it's impossibly difficult to put on muscle mass compared to when you are in your 20s and your 30s. It's fairly easy to put on muscle mass when you are in your 20s. You are in the best possible shape of your life, and your body can take all the obstacles or all the things that you put your body through. You don't need to sleep enough. You can make do with 4 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep, and you can just go about your day as if nothing has happened. But once you hit your late 30s, then you start realizing that your body has to be treated well for it to treat you better. So hence, the best possible time to put on muscle mass if you still have the scope, is in your 20s and 30s, and I would suggest you keep working out even in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, because your muscles are the most important asset for you, not money, not anything else. It's your muscle mass. You can think of it as a simple thumb rule. This is the most important thing, most important aspect that you can work on by yourself, for yourself. Now a bit about how we evolved as a species. I hope it's not debatable that we have evolved from apes. We used to be in the treetops, then we came onto the ground, then we evolved as a hunter-gatherers, and then we started going towards agriculture, and then specializing in our fields, and then we did all so and so. So when we were hunter-gatherers, our bodies evolved to contain only the optimal amount of muscle mass in our body. You might have observed, or if you didn't observe, you can just listen to this. Whenever you don't use a muscle, the muscle tends to waste away. You might have even heard from interviews or seen in YouTube how astronauts, when they go to space, because of the lack of gravity there, gravitational force, they have to work extra hard to keep their bodies in check. They have to exercise even in space, in the International Space Station. So that is mandatory for them, because if they don't use their normal muscles, and because of the lack of gravity, the body thinks that all of this muscle mass is not actually required. So the muscle slowly starts wasting away, and you lose muscle mass very, very, very quickly. I can't stress this enough. But unless you use your muscle mass, your muscles, any sort of muscles, your back muscles, even the muscles that you don't see, if you don't use those muscles, they tend to waste away. And this is a very intelligent evolution that we went through. Why? Because when we were hunter-gatherers, our body required to stay light and flexible and fast, right? And muscles, they tend to consume a lot of energy. Don't think about now. When we were actually in our prehistoric times, we had to hunt for our own food, we had to gather food, we had to be alert for dangers across the world, around our environment. There were lots of animals that could quickly hunt and kill you and eat you. So you had to be very fast, and you had to be light, so that you could climb trees and you can go about your life quickly. So the most important muscles were only allowed to be there in the body. Most important muscles that the body thinks that it's actually being used day to day and they're active, such as your leg muscles. You had to stay. So if you see actually tribals who are even now in the hunter-gatherer phase, maybe some sub-Saharan tribe and all, you will never see them muscular and in shape like bodybuilders you see. They don't have large biceps, they don't have large, large chest muscles and all of that. Those muscles you only see on people who are working out in the gym. Actually, in the real environment, in the wild, people who are in that particular part of the world, they look lean. They have flat chests, deep set abdomens, and they have endurance muscles. They can run for a long time. without getting tired quickly, and they look like marathon runners. Yes, if you actually observe them, they all look like endurance runners or marathon runners, and it is very scientific in the way they look, because they don't have any extra muscle mass that is not required for their daily activities. They just need a good quad muscles, calves to run quickly, and they need to be light all around. Else, no fat mass, no muscle mass extra, that's it. So that is why we evolved like this. So it is a double-edged sword. It is good during that time, but in the present time, in the present day, where we have comfort all around us, everything is fine tuned for our comfort. We can go to a supermarket, get whatever we need. All the food is available, arranged very well on the store shelves, and they are arranged in such a way that the most tastiest and the easiest to cook or no need to cook, all of those foods are arranged in front of you, that you can directly pick, take it, and then directly consume. The foods that are actually difficult to cook are at the edges of the store. You have to search for them, such as lentils, rice, dals, whole wheat. You will not get them also in stores, in supermarkets. Vegetables are also at the end of the store. All of the easy comfort foods are at the front of the store. You can observe this whenever you go to supermarkets. Any supermarket, your favorite supermarket, maybe Reliance Fresh or someone. So when comfort is all around you, when you can climb up a flight of stairs, or you can climb 10 floors or 20 floors with a click of a button on the elevator, you have to work extra hard to conserve your muscle mass. All around you, we have designed our lives in such a way that you have to search for actually doing physical activity, and this has happened in just the last 100 to 150 years. Before that, there was no concept of comfort. You had to work for your food on the table. You had to go and collect food, or you had to walk a lot. You didn't have all of these vehicles around you with optimal petrol powered engines that you can drive in a bike, or you can sit in a car and go wherever you want. That was not there. There was no concept of that. In India, particularly in the 50 years back, you had to walk at least 2 to 3 kilometers or even 10 kilometers before you could reach a bus stop, from where you had to go to your next destination. That was not there before. But now everything is at a click of a button. Now you don't even need to go anywhere to get your food. You can order it from Swiggy or Zomato. Everything is there in your phone. What will the body think because of this? What is the consequence? Body thinks, okay, cool, you have everything. You don't need this extra muscle mass that is holding you down. Let's burn that away and use it as energy. So all the protein and your muscle mass starts wasting away slowly. That is the thing. But there is a very useful and easy trick to keep your muscle mass on your body. How? Working out, resistance training. Tell your body that this muscle is important. These chest muscles, these abdominal muscles, these core muscles, all of your muscles are important for your body. Tell that to your body. How would you do that? By exercise, physical activity. Not just calmly walking every day for 5 to 10 minutes. You have to actually use your muscles and activate them. For that, you have to lift medium to heavy weights for that. And that is very important. Else, Your body is optimized and evolved for thousands of years for exactly conserving only what is required, and everything else, it goes away. It's used in energy. Even the as you know, when you eat a certain quantity every day, and if you are not using those calories, the energy, the glucose that you have consumed, the glucose is immediately converted into fat and stored under your skin. That is also a part of evolution. Not any animal you can see which is fat in the wild, because they don't require that, and that pulls them down, or that does not allow them to run as fast when there is a predator around. But now you can see that that same evolution of storing fat is affecting us in a negative way. So this is about evolution. This is the final point that I'll be discussing now. It's about our muscle mass, our muscle tissues acting as a glucose store. So whenever we consume some food, say rice, it has carbohydrates. When that is digested, that is converted into glucose and it is passed on to our bloodstream. Once the glucose is inside our blood, after that, just 20% of that glucose is stored in the liver. The rest, 80% of the energy, is passed on to our muscles in the form of glucose. So our muscles store 80% of the glucose in our blood. As you can understand, if there is less muscle mass and you have consumed a lot of carbohydrates, maybe rice, sugar, sweets, and every part of our diet contains calories, carbohydrates, and once the brim has reached, if you metaphorically think about a tumbler, that is your muscles capacity of storing glucose, if it reaches to the brim, it will start to overflow. What happens then? All the additional glucose gets converted into fat and then stored in under your skin into the fat tissues of our body. What happens when your fat tissues are also full? Usually our body is really good at converting the additional energy into fat and then storing away in different parts of the body, and you have fat tissue everywhere under your skin. What if that is also full? If that tumbler is also full and it starts overflowing, what happens is the additional fat that has been converted goes to your liver, and if this crosses a threshold, and it crosses the threshold several times, then there is a very high chance of the body suffering from fatty liver disease. After that, some of the fat also gets pushed onto the muscles. What happens if there is fat in your muscles, in your normal lean muscle mass? If there is fat in the muscles, your muscles stop acting as efficient and effective glucose storehouses. That is bad for our health, as in later when you actually have a blood glucose spike, the insulin that is generated from your pancreas, that is ineffective to push it onto the muscles and store it away. That overall increases the blood glucose level in your blood, which stays, and the peak stays for a longer time, and your insulin is not as effective to do this, transport all the glucose into your muscle fibers. That condition is called diabetes, type 2 diabetes particularly. type 1 is genetic, so type 2 is type 2 diabetes. This is how it is formed. So long story short, having good healthy muscle mass, muscle fibers, that is developed by active resistance training, strength training, is absolutely essential to prevent our bodies from all of these metabolic diseases. One of it, the main culprit, is diabetes. Having muscle mass prevents our body from a whole lot of issues that are caused due to our lifestyle, our comfort lifestyle now. And most importantly, it prevents us from getting these metabolic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and all of that. And as you might know, India is fast becoming the diabetes capital of the world also. I know it's a fad, and because of our lifestyles, because of the comfort that is all around us, and the ease of buying these carbohydrate rich foods very easily, hyper processed foods very easily, like chips, cokes, sweetened drinks, and everything, it's very absolutely essential, and I can't stress this enough. Exercise is vital to our health, both physical and mental. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. This has been my video today. Hope you liked this particular new content that I'm creating. I'll be talking more about health from now on. Comment below if you have any particular topics you want me to touch on. I will do my research on that and I will bring them to you again. Thanks for watching.